Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the festival director and program director of Something Wicked Film Festival and Events. And welcome to our amazing show where we talk about a whole bunch of horror and a whole bunch of gore. But this month, we are doing something a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We are focusing on Valentine's Day and Black History Month. The film that we have coming up for you in this episode is Tales from the Crypt presents Demon Knight. And to talk about this movie is two of my favorite guests on the show so far, Nate Hill and Dave Watkins. I want to thank both of them for joining me for this conversation. Nate, tell everyone a little bit about who you do, or who you are, what you do.
Who do I do? Well, I didn't realize we were going to get so personal right off the bat.
Well, you don't have to tell us, man. You just tell us about yourself. It's fine.
All right.
My name is Nate Hill, and I read a lot. There's a lot of horror novels and horror comics I have consumed, and I have a lot of useless information and imagery just rattling around in my brain. And I'm here to release some of it. And yeah, here I am.
All right, Dave, tell everyone a little bit about who you are.
Okay. Well, yeah, I watch a lot of movies, but I'm also work on movies as well. I write, direct, and produce. I've done several web series you can check out online. I got Lumber Baron of Jasper County, which is a comedy. It's spinoff Ghost Killing Squad is a horror comedy, and Herman Jones, which is a psychological thriller horror.
Excellent. So the movie we are discussing for this week is Tales from the Crypt's Demon Knight. It also happens to be the first film that was a spinoff from the amazing HBO show Tales from the Crypt. Their first big screen adaptation, so to speak, but they decided not to do like an anthology film like the show was, but to do a self-contained feature film. Now, I watched Tales from the Crypt religiously as a kid when it was airing on HBO. So when I saw this movie, I was really psyched and pumped up to see, the Crypt Keeper and the feature-length film on the big screen. Tell me, guys, what were your impressions or experiences first watching this film?
Good.
Go ahead, Nate. Yeah.
Generally. In fact, let me start off with giving you the quick official synopsis of this film, just to get everybody on the same board. And movie came out, what, 95? Was it?
1995.
1995. Okay, and officially, story goes, ex-soldier Frank Breaker, played by William Sadler, is the guardian of an ancient key that can unlock tremendous evil. The sinister but charming collector, played by Billy Zane, is a demon who wants the key so he can initiate the apocalypse. On the run from wicked mercenaries for almost 90 years, Breaker finally stops at a boarding house in New Mexico where, with the help of its quirky residents, he plans to face off against the collector and his band of ghouls, preventing them from ever seizing the key.
Where are you getting that synopsis from? Because you need a credit who's ever wrote that thing.
I think it was IMDb.
Okay.
Either that or Wikipedia. I don't know. I went through a couple websites.
And that is the gist of the film itself.
And I remember seeing this movie when I was a wee lad. I was never as devoted to Tales from the Crypt as Dave or Kevin here, but I remember being extremely entertained by Demon Knight in the theater, as despite how derivative it may be and how much it might remind you of other horror films, it still manages to be entertaining, despite what critics and other foolish folk might say. Demon Knight is a damned entertaining film. I like its B-movie schlock and the fact that it was actually in the theaters instead of direct to DVD.
What about you?
Yeah, I think I saw it in the theater twice. I liked it so much. So and for some reason I liked it so much I bought a shirt with a poster on it. I remember having a shirt with the Demon Knight poster. But yeah,
Nice.
I don't know. I liked the show, and I was into the show, and it was, it kind of hit the sweet spot, I guess. I don't know.
So, well, this is a unusual film, I guess, for the time, because that was when a lot of, I guess, African American directors and filmmakers were coming up. Ernest Dickerson directed this, who had been mostly a DP slash cinematographer for films, and I've discussed it before, Death by Temptation earlier, of which he was also the cinematographer for. With this one, he had a pretty damn good cast. And that was probably because it was HBO's, Tales from the Crypt's first feature-length film, and they were putting everything ahead for this film. There was no stops for trying to present this as a big budget film for audiences, because originally they were planning on doing 3 of these things. But
Right. And as far as he actually had some say in the casting. He did get him to cast like Jada Pinkett in it. He originally wanted to go with somebody else, and he was able to get her in there.
Jada Pinkett before she became Jada Pinkett Smith.
Yeah. And so he got her in there, and then her, I guess was CCH Pounder, was that her mom in it, or is she just she must have been a relative of some sort. So he was able to get he was able to get a little bit of different mix of of cast members there.
Mm-hmm.
Really, is the director and that actress related? Or
they actually wanted to cast Cameron Diaz in it originally.
Oh yeah, I
that character
coming across that, which is kind of odd to consider. Honestly.
It would have been. I mean, Cameron Diaz was pretty big at that point, but it was good that he was able to get Jada Pinkett in there.
She's
and I think
it's
but just the way that the way it worked out too, the way the characters built up. I'm sorry, what were we talking about?
Just how great a cast this movie actually is.
Yeah, we were talking about the cast because
so the standout to me is Billy Zane. Not billing too, but and I was watching some of the behind the scenes commentary, and everyone in talks about how from the script to what he did, he took the script, which they said it wasn't on the page. Whatever he did wasn't in the script. I mean, the dialogue was there, but the way he did it all, So, and also Ernest Dickerson was talking about how Billy Zane came in, when they're just kind of getting ready, and he apparently was bald, and nobody knew he was bald, but he comes in and he's bald, and he opens up a case and he has a bunch of wigs in it. And he's like, "Which wig do you want me to wear for this?" So then Ernest Dickerson said, "I kind of like the bald head. I think that's the way we ought to do it." So.
Which works out extremely well.
Yeah.
So he carried around a suitcase full of wigs.
Yeah. And I never knew he was bald until really. I thought he shaved his head really for Demon Knight, but I was surprised to see that. And then
I thought he shaved his head for Demon Knight too. So this is a surprise for me. I didn't know that, because I know in later films he's bald in all of his later films. Kind of like what happened to Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis just went bald for every one of his films after a certain period.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of looks he had in that suitcase full of wigs. I mean, did he have 1970s Billy Zane or Elvis Billy Zane?
Yeah, it's probably, I don't know.
Billy Zane, maybe. Yeah.
It's probably the way I think he did Titanic after this movie. So that Titanic, he actually had a wig on. I'm sure he had that Titanic wig in the briefcase.
I think it was rumored that he got the part in Titanic because of Demon Knight. I can't confirm if that's true or not, but if it's true, it's amazing.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, one of the someone on the making of behind the scenes said that they thought that was the case as well. But I mean, they could just be saying that. But yeah, it's a possibility.
Well, you can say that Jada Pinkett Smith, just her career blew up after this film. She started starring in her own movies, and instead of just being the love interest in some of her earlier films, she started actually being a presence in a lot of films, because Demon Knight was successful when it first came out, unlike its sequel, Bordello Blood. But this had a great cast, because it not only had Billy Zane. It also had William Sadler, and it had Dick Miller, it had CCH Pounder, or Thomas Hayden Church.
This is like for Dick Miller though. In this one, it's like usually when you see him, he's in a scene and then gets killed. Like most of the Roger Corman movies, except for the Bucket of Blood, and he's in Gremlins too, a pretty good bit. But the first Gremlins, he's in a few scenes. But you're not used to seeing him play a character who's on screen as much as he is in this movie, and he did a great job with it.
Yep.
So they had room to stretch himself, I'm sure.
Yeah.
One more quick note about Billy Zane. He must have had a great time in this movie. I mean, that guy's enthusiasm and charisma here, he's just like letting it all loose.
Yeah. He's definitely like having the time of his life, and he's doing an interview for the I think it's 2016 interview, and he's saying I'm down with making a sequel. Let's do it. He's but I think it's one of those characters that it kind of reminds me a little bit in some instances of Beetlejuice a little bit. At one point especially when he first reveals that he's the demon, and he jumps outside and he's like, fuck this cowboy shit, and he throws off his hat, and
that's right. He does that little cowboy dance of his, gets all into it.
Yeah.
How great was that?
Yeah.
And then he like slits his wrist and bleeds green slime all over the ground, and
which they said they apparently got that green slime from like glow sticks. They open glow sticks, and then
I've heard that too. I've heard that one too.
It looks kind of like it, but. I guess another thing about the cast in general, and this is awesome that is an ensemble piece, even though William Sadler is the protagonist character, and obviously, but the rest of the characters, you don't know, going into it, you don't know who is going to be, you don't know that Jada Pickett's going to be the Demon Knight replacement until it gets further into the movie, and they do a good job of not really showcasing her that much until it gets to the point where she needs to be showcased. She's in it just as much as everybody else up until she becomes really important to the plot.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with that. When I rewatched it, I kind of realized that they spent a good bit of time with each of the characters, especially some of the earlier ones, before they killed them.
Right? Yeah.
Which is very rare for these type of. I hate to call them B horror movies.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is, and it was not afraid to admit that it was a B horror movie. It was coming from a B horror movie show. We gotta keep that in mind.
Right, and yeah. And then once that though, it was like once the violence starts though, when Villain Zane comes in, he punches the sheriff's head through.
Oh yeah,
it's like
gets his fist stuck in the guy's skull.
But it's weird because it is in a lot of ways it is just like a bunch of people trapped inside of a location for the majority of the movie.
It's a siege story.
Yeah. Kind of like, like Rio Bravo or Night of the Living Dead or Assault on Precinct 13 sort of deal. But but at the same time, it works though. The way that Ernest Dickerson is able to direct it in a way that you don't feel that. To me, I didn't feel that in the movie. Especially the first time I saw it. I felt it more now, but the first time I saw it, I never really thought this is just a bunch of people trapped in a place trying to ward off something.
No, I agree with you, and I think it is too the cinematographer and Ernest Dickerson's. What do you call it?
Direction.
Yeah, direction.
But Ernest Dickerson, like you said, he started as a cinematographer, so he does have he has a very that type of eye for cinematography and to make the location very, very interesting throughout it without you thinking, hey, we're stuck in this which the location looks very good anyway. It's a very interesting looking location. That was apparently an airport hangar that they were able to rent and just make everything inside of it and just turn, and then they say in the script it's supposed to be some kind of old church. So it's kind of like it doesn't even look like a church, but it looks weird, which is cool though. I mean, that's why they got the stained glass windows in there, but it's a very odd looking location, which makes it
a church that's been converted into a hotel.
Yeah.
That somehow also has this underground cavern beneath it and old mine tunnels that go out into the desert. But that comes up in the story.
It does, and that's what churches used to do back then. They used to funnel stuff through the mine tunnels, their illegal booths and stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's funny though because
hey, New Mexico, baby, that's how they do it down there.
What's interesting is apparently From Dusk Till Dawn was supposed to be a Tales from the Crypt movie, and
and so was The Frighteners. Probably, if you can imagine that.
But if you think about From Dusk Till Dawn, how similar the location is in a way, even though it's like a whorehouse, but it is a similar location where they all get stuck inside the place and they have to go under it to get out.
Mm-hmm. That could be one of the reasons why I decided to go with something else, a different vampire film like Bordello Blood.
Yeah.
I understand they also had 2 other scripts in mind, and the main reason they went with Bordello of Blood was because they had to purchase it from, I think it was Robert Zemeckis and his co-writer, just to stay on good terms with him and keep him more into projects they had going with the production company.
You talking about you talking about Demon Knight, or are you talking about some other?
Talking about Bordello of Blood.
Bordello of Blood. I got you, Bordello.
Yeah, but before then, had this script that was a zombie story in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And one other, I have
the Bordello of Blood though. Really, that didn't do him any favors.
Oh no, it did not.
I kind of like. I kind of like the movie. It's really bad, but I didn't like it like Demon Knight. It was this isn't as good as Demon Knight in it. I don't know, but it kind of screwed him over. Yeah.
Dennis Miller was really good in it, but I don't think he was on the same page with everyone else in that movie.
The story behind Bordello of Blood, nobody wanted to be there. Nobody wanted to do that movie.
Which sucks though, because it's Corey Feldman was very enthusiastic about it. On the other hand, but
Corey Feldman.
But they had him as the main character. But I think there was something going on with him where he was I think he just had gotten in some trouble or something, and so he couldn't. They had to really struggle for him even to be in the movie to begin with.
Oh,
but I think it would have had a lot better time with the movie because Dennis Miller, I liked what he did. It was hilarious.
I thought he was funny.
He was probably the best part of the movie. But as far as apparently he would not say the lines of the script. He would just show up and be like, fuck it, I'm not doing it. I'm just going to make this shit up.
Oh my god, that sounds like something he would do too.
Yeah, anyway. I guess
it also says something about just how talented Dennis Miller must have been.
Yeah. Well, I guess he was doing his late night show and flying in and then just showing up and saying fuck, I don't have time to memorize this dialogue and it's shitty anyway. So it's
which is the exact opposite of Demon Knight, because the dialogue everything that's being said actually makes sense to the story.
Right, and the another thing about the script was actually not a Tales from the Crypt script to begin with. It was a spec script, but written by 3 different writers.
It actually predated the Tales from the Crypt series.
Before the series, and so it's interesting that they. And it doesn't even they had to change a few things and make it feel more Tales from the Crypt, but it doesn't have what happens in the series, which is the comeuppance thing where I think I don't remember you told me said this, but you said some comedian said nice try asshole. Was it what they said? The Twilight Zone? Which is kind of like that.
That was Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
Talking about the Twilight Zone and how almost every episode could pretty much end with the narrator going, "Nice try, asshole," and that would be just like a coda for the original Twilight Zone series.
Yeah, so that's kind of what happened. That's kind of how Tales from the Crypt is kind of written. The show, someone will try to do something asinine, and then at the end get their comeuppance.
Which is not this one, really.
Yeah.
Well, it's also 30 minutes either. It's also a 90-minute movie that you have to actually tell a complete story from beginning to end. And make it telling to the audience.
So they got some this has got a lot of mythology into the story, which kind of it kind of helps, and it kind of adds opens some additional questions that are never really answered in the movie, but it does add a little interesting stuff, especially with the key and the demons and the Demon Knight concepts never fully. Is he always fighting demons, or there's some question of that? He says he says once when he passes it to Jada Pickett's Smith's character. He says you'll have to eventually, when all the stars on your hand align, you'll have to fight again in the same way I did. So I don't know. To me, it seems like he's almost always have to be fighting demons, but I don't know. But there's another line of dialogue in the movie that makes me think, because he knows like which. Apparently, I've seen a lot of like hate about this shit online, but like he knows to shoot the demons in the eyes to kill them. If he wasn't, if he only, you think he'd almost. I mean, I guess the implication is, does he always fight demons, or is it just when at the end, when all the 7 stars are, combine at the end,
I assume he would. When I watched the film, and I've seen it several times, I assume that he's always fighting the demons, but when the 7 stars align, that's when it's close to him having to pass it on to someone else. That's how I saw it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
And that's how I kind of got. And you may or may not see that way because of the very end, when Jada Pinkett Smith, she seals the bus she's getting on and she's leaving town. Of course, the other demon shows up already. Yeah. She's had to be for it can't be more than
like
a day or two.
Like how long's that blood last in there? It's like it seems like they're very like generous with it. They're just like pouring it all the time, Then
like, can you imagine at the end she covers herself with it? It's just like how much blood was in that little bottle?
Well, I guess she took it from him though.
She took it from him. She took it from him.
Well.
But still, though, it's like I don't know. I mean, I guess it's just the suspension of disbelief at that point. But it's cool. That's a cool ending, though. When she and then
he's
like, "Nah, I'll take the next bus," and then he's walking down the road and it starts whistling the Tales from the Crypt. Music. Cool.
He'll eventually catch up to her.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that demon's like, I don't know if he's like a major demon. He kind of seemed like, I don't know. I guess if he really wanted to catch up with her, but I don't know if he really. He just wanted. I think he just wanted to be a demon. I don't know if he really wanted to kill a demon knight or anything. I don't know.
I read somewhere that the original plan was to have that key/bottle be like a major factor in every Tales from the Crypt movie, which I know it does show up in Bordello of Blood, but it's not like a huge.
It's a joke in that one.
Yeah, what you mean the bikini model at the beginning of the movie? Is that?
Sorry,
no, there was Nate was saying there was originally an ideal to expand upon the whole key for all the 3.
Oh, films. I thought he said bikini model. I was like, what? Are you talking about? That came out of it.
Excuse me, that key/bottle, that thing. That
there's a bikini model at the beginning of it. I thought you were like really.
It was like I don't know.
Bikini model is an entirely different scene in the movie.
You shouldn't even have
probably Dick Miller's
like
favorite scene that he's ever done.
Let's face
it.
Now there was a bikini model in the very beginning where John Leocat is just.
Oh yeah. That's true. But I don't think she had any clothes on though.
I don't think so either.
I guess.
Oh my God! No, but originally I read too that the key was supposed to play a major part in all 3 films. But I think when they were forced to use that script for Bordello of Blood, the whole key thing got thrown out the window, and so it became a joke prop in Bordello of Blood, and then of course that tanked, and then there was never a 3rd film until they did Ritual, which was really just a throwaway film that they just clipped on Tales from the Crypt at the beginning.
I never saw the 3rd one.
It could have been cool.
I only found out about it while I was looking up Demon Knight.
Yeah, it could have been cool if they focused on the key, and I thought they were going to do that when the original movies were coming out. But yeah, it was an idea that no one thought was going to be worth a damn, so they just kind of chucked it through. And I was like, oh, but that's such a cool fucking prop. That key is cool.
It was weird though, because this movie was very successful at the box office. It made like twice its budget. And it's weird that it's weird that they couldn't do the next one right. I mean, I don't know. You think Bordello of Blood doesn't sound like necessarily the worst idea ever, but it just didn't work for some reason. I guess people just weren't feeling the vampires at the time.
Oh well. Yeah, also, I didn't realize until now that when I watch these movies at the theater, I kind of forget the time frame of when they were made, and I guess Bordello of Blood came out like a year later. So they were probably whatever ideal they originally had with the key and trying to link all 3 of these movies, but it got thrown out the window. And like we've said before, Bordello of Blood was probably a last ditch effort to get it done on a schedule. They had a date. They had to shoot a movie. It had to be released on that date. I some of my opinions on it because back then, and I hate to say this, a lot of 90s franchises would come out with the sequels very, very fast. The late 80s and 90s were something like that, where you'd see these sequels to successful franchises come out really fast. I guess this was just thrown in there with that whole lump right there, so they can make money.
Right, and it does seem like in a lot of situations that it becomes down to the creative decision makings. Almost it becomes like a board meeting with like some people making some oddball decisions, and not really caring about like the certain things that other people might. But you think that just the idea of the show being so popular, but I guess maybe by that time the interest in the show may have been less as well. By the time Bordello of Blood came out, I know when Demon Knight came out, it was very popular at the time.
Oh, you're right. Because Tales from the Crypt ended in '96. So Demon Knight came out while the show was still airing.
Yeah. So it only was out another year, and then after that, when Bordello of Blood came out, the show wasn't even on anymore. So, another interesting thing about the movie was from the director's commentary. And the opening scene and the end scene was directed by Gilbert Adler and not Ernest Dickerson. Apparently, like the Crypt Keeper stuff.
Yeah,
so it's kind of interesting too, because those are the scene, other than the scene with Dick Miller and all the models, those are the ones that have a pretty gratuitous amount of like nudity in them for the most part, But it also has the the Crypt Keeper stuff. Apparently, Gilbert Adler was more he was more in tune with the Crypt Keeper. And Ernest Dickerson said he didn't care. He just said I was focusing on the rest of the movie at the time, and it wasn't even something that it bothered him.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised because he also directed Bordello of Blood too. So, and I thought he was mostly just the producer on Tales from the Crypt. Until he did Bordello of Blood. Who knows? We don't know all the details because we're not doing that movie yet.
Yeah.
But it could be that whoever was supposed to do Bordello of Blood couldn't do it, or they left and he was forced to do it at a shore. Like I said, they have a deadline they have to keep with the movie, and that's what they shot.
It's a pretty big scene though at the beginning when the Crypt Keeper shows up at that award ceremony. It's like that's a huge huge. It looks good as far as the amount of people there and the set stuff. It looks pretty legit, but it does look. And it has it's interesting that a different person directed it, because it feels that way, and it's probably a good thing because it's supposed to be different than the rest of the movie.
Also, if you didn't know, since this was when it first came out, this was the movie version of Tales from the Crypt. So it was the first time people actually saw the Crypt Keeper not sitting down. So you got to see him actually interact with other characters, and you got to see him walking, a giant ass puppet walking, and all that type of stuff. So they were doing a lot at first with this, and you may be right. Gilbert Adler may have done a lot of the Crypt Keeper segments for the actual show, since he was a producer of the show, and then he just segued into doing that for the movie as well.
But yeah, that when the Crypt Keeper's walking though, there's like one shot where I guess they had to put some kind of green screen on his face. It looks really odd. You can kind of still see a little bit of the green screen around his neck, but it was obviously a hard effect at that time. It's 1995 when they're doing it. No computer, and that's another thing about the effects in this movie are fantastic, because it is all like none of it's computer generated. It's all practical.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about this movie. There's a lot of effects in this movie, a lot of gore in this movie. So if you have audience, if you haven't seen the movie before, be aware of that. People, it may seem like a normal film, but anyone who's actually seen Tales from the Crypt knows that in between all the thriller aspects, they like to have their gore too. It was on the HBO. It wasn't originally on broadcast cable until later on when I forget who bought the rights to.
Yeah, I think it was Fox, I believe.
Yeah, and they cut out all the
Yeah.
gore and stuff for that broadcast version.
Apparently, there's like an issue with the rights right now, and they can't really do anything with it. Like even HBO can't play the episodes because it's like a rights issue.
Oh, that's a lot of HBO shows. A lot of older HBO shows have that issue.
And it's like they can't even do any more stuff with it just because it's funny who's ever got the rights. When why don't they do something with it? They're just going to hold the rights and be like, okay,
they're just going to sit on Tales from the Crypt.
Well, keep in mind
like that.
Well, you got to keep in mind that Tales from the Crypt was originally an EC comic title. And if you've seen the British movie, there's a British movie based on Tales from the Crypt.
About that, I had no idea there was a 1972 Tales from the Crypt movie out there.
I got a copy
I
of
started
it.
looking into this. That was news to me.
Yeah.
The show and the movie utilizes one of the same exact stories.
Yeah.
The Santa Claus one.
Santa Claus one.
So Vault of Horror is also another comic it was based on. But...
Yep, Vault of Horror, and then they also did a movie called Two-Fisted Tales that was a TV version movie, also based on the same EC comics. But they when they made these movies, they just borrowed stories from all of them.
Yeah.
Like Tales from the Crypt, the show borrowed tales from all of these different EC comics. It wasn't just the Tales from the Crypt comic. It was all of these different comics. The Two-Fisted Tales movie did the same thing, and the Vault of Horror and the original Tales from the Crypt movie did the same thing. They just kind of flip-flopped because they were all EC comics. So I think one of those things is we bought the rights to EC comics. We can use whatever story we want to. But the movies decided to veer off that and do something original, which is not so original now because they just took someone else's script and made it into a Tales from the Crypt script.
Yeah.
So how well does the original Tales from the Crypt kind that came out in the 70s, how well does that hold up?
I watched it not too long ago. It's old, it's very 70s feeling to it. It's kind of British.
It's a very British
kind of feel to it. I mean,
is it like more slow paced the way 1970s movies?
So it has that what happens is like a bunch of the characters are all in this crypt at the beginning, kind of like the someone like a Grim Reaper like character brings them in there, and then they tell their stories, and as they're telling the stories, they're all dead at the end, and then they're at the end of their stories, then they end up, it's one of those things, kind of like they do in Tales from the Hood, of course it was the original one, so it's not like a. It must have been kind of
Crypt Keeper. Is he have any kind of makeup on?
I think was it Ralph Richardson plays him? I believe.
I can't remember anymore.
He's like a British actor who's. I'll look it up. I think it's Ralph Richardson.
But it's a British production, just like Vault of Horror was. And what happened was,
Peter Cushing's in it too, isn't it?
Yeah, Peter Cushing's in it, and one of Peter Cushing's in it, and he's in the one, the story that's most liked.
Yeah, he's like a kind of like pitiful character that gets killed, I believe. Yeah, Ralph Richardson plays it, so he's a really proper kind of British dude. He has a pretty good presence, and he kind of looks like someone who'd be a Grim Reaper, I guess. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of like a Christopher Lee type, but.
Well, at least he's not like William Sadler in the Bill and Ted.
Oh yeah.
He's not that type of Grim Reaper.
Yeah, that's awesome though when he does that,
But
William Sadler though is very like this is like the role in Demon Knight is not like something you see him do either a lot, because that's not the type of character you really see him playing, and he had it was a really good part for him.
Yeah, because you're more used to him being either the bad guy or the underhanded good guy.
Or an authority figure or something like that,
I mean that's William Sadler, or he could be the pitiful guy like he was in The Mist. William Sadler kind of shows up in a lot of different types of projects all over the place, and you never know what type of character he's going to morph into. And him being like the hero almost in this film, where he gets to shoot a lot of bad people or demons and come out on top, more or less, is actually surprising in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But what are some of your other thoughts on the film, since we're speaking about We're kind of
Well-
going place with Tales from the Crypt in general.
Back to Demon Knight. I understand that some of the original writers on the project, they also went on to a 90s show called Brimstone, which I don't know if you've seen that, but Brimstone shares a lot of DNA with Demon Knight, including the whole thing where if you shoot the demons in the eyes, that's what you need to do to defeat the demon. And
Why do you think that people hate that demon getting shot in the eye shit so much? Like I've actually seen people point that out as something they fucking hate, you know?
Really? I didn't know that was a thing, actually.
I don't know. I've seen it on some boards, you know, or some people talk about it. I'm like, I mean, you got to be able to kill him some way, you know. You got to have some way for him to die, you know. Yeah, it's like what's wrong with shooting him in the eyes, you know? And then their eyes are all glowy, and you know they explode when you shoot them in the
Zombies
eyes.
already have the brain. You got to shoot something else.
Well, I kind of saw it as, the eyes are the window to the soul. You're piecing the soul of these demons by shooting them in the eye. That's how I saw it.
Zombies got the brain. Vampires got the hearts. Come on, you got to give the demons something here.
I never had a problem with it. It's just weird with sometimes when you read something like that and you're like, why is there a problem with it? You know, I don't get it. You know.
Well, I like the aspect of that when you shoot them in the eyes and they more or less die. Like a bolt of electricity comes right back at the person.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool. Yeah.
William Sadler,
like one last fuck you, man.
Exactly. William Sadler's, he's smart enough to dodge that electrical bolt when it's coming back at him, but some of the other characters are not so lucky.
Yeah. Well, I think that one guy, I don't remember his name, but the guy there's that one guy who actually voiced Roger Rabbit in the he's the one that gets shocked, you know. His name was
that guy. Did that actor ever go on to do anything else?
He does a lot of voice work. He doesn't do a lot of on camera stuff, but so Charles Fletcher, he's like Wally, but he's done a lot of voice stuff. That's what he's really known for. But he's a pretty good actor in that movie, though.
I know him for Roger Rabbit and this movie. That's where
yeah. Right. But I mean, I don't know. If you look on IMDb, he's got a lot of credits. You know, not something you wouldn't recognize him from, but he's working still.
Like we got off on subject on him, but he used to when Roger Rabbit came out, he would be, he was in a lot of publicity for that movie as the voice of Roger Rabbit. So
I don't know. I don't ever remember saying. I guess they showed him like that. I never really saw him like from Roger Rabbit.
They had like magazines with him and standing next to Roger Rabbit and shit. The voice. I remember that.
He wasn't as puffy when he was voicing Roger Rabbit. I remember he put on some weight for Demon Knight.
What you fat shaming him for, man?
No, I'm just saying.
Man, you horrible. Serious. All right.
Yeah.
In the other aspect of Demon Knight,
man,
I like the fact that this is a film where the audience is shown a lot in terms of the backstory and history of the Breaker character played by William Sadler. When he has these little flashbacks to when the one character who first gets the key is right there when they're being crucified, and he meets one of the demons there and all that type of stuff. It's kind of like, for some odd reason, the 7 stars are aligning, and he knows he has to the next Demon Knight, but he's also getting these original imagery from when the key was first made. And of course, they actually show the one sequence, World War One, World War One, where he gets the key himself.
So he's been like he hasn't aged either. So he's been like alive since World War One. But I guess just being the key holder makes him not age.
Well, he does say he's been doing it a long time. So he's like, it's time for me to die. I've been running for too damn long, and I guess that's a sad aspect of the character. He's been running for so long that he feels like it's his time. Although I'd say kill some more demons and keep living.
Yeah. You would think that would be I don't know. I mean, it would probably get fairly exhausting running from demons and all the time. But he doesn't seem like he's too exhausted. Really seems like, but I guess he's.
I don't know. There is
He's
that
well
one
preserved for his age.
Well, hey, there's that one scene when he gets there at the church / motel where he's eating that stuff with ketchup on it, and even Dick Miller says, "I wouldn't eat that shit."
Yeah.
I did find that funny the recent time I just watched it. I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that scene.
On the director's commentary, they were asking Ernest about that, and what is that he's eating? And he's like, he's like, he didn't remember what it was supposed to be, but he said it actually is cream of mushroom soup or something like that.
Oh.
You know, and then he said, the idea was like from, the guys used to put ketchup on everything, like older guys like that, from World War I or whatever. And he said that was like the whole idea to kind of show more that he is from a different time period than the other characters are.
Interesting. See, I didn't pick up on that. I didn't know that. Interesting.
But it is a very standout scene just because I don't like ketchup anyway. It's not I don't like it. So he's throwing ketchup on. I'm like, oh my god, don't eat it. And then he eats it. I'm like,
I got that impression too when I rewatched. I was like, oh, I hate ketchup. Oh.
Okay, ketchup on mushroom soup doesn't sound great. I'll grant you that.
But it's William Sadler. He'll do anything for a buck.
Yeah. I was thinking. I mean, I don't know. I was thinking if I had to do that, I guess I would do it if I had to do it for a scene. But at the same time, it's like, oh man, does it have to be ketchup? Can we do mustard instead? I don't like mushroom soup either. So I mean, let me do like cream of chicken or something with mustard. That would.
Get some sriracha in there.
Yeah. I'd do sriracha. Yeah, I'd do sriracha over ketchup. I guess it had to be ketchup though, because there was a point to it. Like I said, it was like, I mean, like Ernest said, it was like he felt that people from that generation just smothered everything with ketchup, and that was their go-to.
Yeah, I do remember hearing that myself, and I guarantee you that people the older generations who watch this and know that can appreciate that that's actually in the film because we see the whole flashback to World War I and all that type of stuff.
Right.
Back in those days, we didn't give fine fuck about this.
You had one condiment. It's ketchup. You put it on everything.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming towards the end of our discussion on Demon Knight, and I want to ask you two, is there anything that you would like to tell us about the film in particular that you want to leave the audience with?
In an alternate world where they didn't have the budget, it could have been Bible salesmen that they were fighting instead of demons. That was an option on the table.
The special effect guy in the interview, he said that he went to him with a budget. They gave him the script, he gave him a budget, and I guess the budget was too much, and they're like, okay, so we're just going to change it to the Bible salesman. And he's like, it was terrible. So I told him I would rework the budget and I'll come up with another option. And that was when he came up with the demons the way that they are, because they actually like people with prosthetics, because they originally were going to be suits and a lot more elaborate. But the way that they were, the way that they are,
like tall, thin actors.
Yeah. And they were put prosthetics, and they look probably a lot better than they would had they actually had the budget to do the suits. Because the way that those guys move as demons is pretty impressive.
Much more impressive than a Bible salesman would have been.
Yeah.
Walking around, frankly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So the thing about this movie is, unfortunately, or fortunately, it started off the very first feature-length film for Tales from the Crypt, which I absolutely loved and grew up with. The bad thing is the other films in the series are not nearly as interesting or as good, unless you are a Dennis Miller fan. So the film Demon Knight did give us some of that. It also allowed someone like Jada Pinkett to become one of the stars and give her a lot of room to grow as an actress, because we all know she went on to do lots of great things afterwards. The same with Billy Zane, who was so charismatic in this film that he probably will never be able to live this film down as being one of my favorite roles that he's ever been in. Both Dick Miller and William Sadler got plenty of screen time to expand upon their repertoire as actors and allow audiences to see a different facet of them instead of just being character actors. And I could go on, but I'm not going to, because we've already talked about the guy who did the voice of Roger Rabbit being given his own little scene.
About William Sadler.
Yes,
I don't think I've ever seen any other movie that featured him quite so much.
Yeah, probably not.
Probably not. I mean, Trespass. If you've never seen Trespass,
yeah. It's a Bill Paxton and William Sadler. Yeah, he's got a big part in that. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
They actually I got a version of it from Scream Factory. Put that out. You know.
Oh.
But I guess one person we didn't talk about much. Now that you mentioned all that, we never talked about Thomas Hayden Church much. He's got he plays like a real prick in this one, but he commits to it. You know.
You know what? He has come so far from what was he originally on Wings? Is that the show he was originally on?
Yeah.
So he has come so far since starring in Wings, and this was one of his earlier films.
But you know, and that actress who was in the other actress, Brenda Blake, I think's her name. She was really good in it, even though she was playing like a pretty bad character. But as far as like I guess she was almost like a prostitute or something. Yeah. But she had
a little bit more than almost, but
it was heavily implied that she might be a prostitute.
They call her a whore several times, and then they told C.H.H. Pounder, or he told her, get that pussy off the table, and she's off the table.
Yeah, she's like cowering after that, and she's like, "I wasn't even talking to you. I was talking to the cat."
I was talking to the cat. There are some clever things in this film that just doesn't show up in the other films.
Did I ever have that cat in any other scene besides that one?
Yeah, the cat's in the film. Several scenes. Remember, the cat gets outside. It leads them to the mine shaft because they chase the cat. When the cat shows back up, they chase the cat so Breaker can put the key on it to make sure the cat's not possessed. And then, of course, they find the cat again later on in the film when the cat has disappeared again.
Yeah.
The cat disappears and reappears several times, and Jada Pinkett keeps mentioning that damn cat. I can't leave my cat.
Yeah, geez, yeah.
But I guess I'm going to leave you with that, everyone. We're going to stop the conversation in terms of a black cat that just has a means of coming in and out of scenes throughout the whole film. If you don't mind that, you're going to love Demon Knight. I will say that Demon Knight, when I grew up with it, was an amazing film. And when I rewatched it, it still holds up pretty damn well. But a lot of these siege type films always hold up really well because they almost seem a little bit timeless. There's a reason why we still can watch films like Night of the Living Dead and Assault on Precinct 13, and those siege type films are always very, very almost timeless because, you know, what better way to do a low budget film, no matter what genre it is, other than to do a bunch of people stuck in a single location for some odd reason that they can't leave. So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this Conversations in Horror, in which we devaluated we did a lot of stuff to Demon Knight, as well as Tales from the Crypt and Bordello of Blood. We kind of touched a little bit on everything Tales from the Crypt related in this episode. I want to thank you all for joining us, for listening to us rant about all this stuff. Please check out some of our previous episodes. We have a lot in store for you for February as we celebrate Valentine's Day and Black History Month. And with that, I would like you to make sure to check out our social media and please have a good evening. Thank you. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.